founder of Hidden Jewels Ministry. Welcome to our channel. We are a support group to women in the Inland Empire strip clubs. We love to send them the message that they are loved, valued, and purposed. And the purpose of this channel is we believe in the power of story, and we hope it encourages you and blesses you. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Today I have one of my dear friends, Shannon. Want to say hi, Shannon?
Hi, everyone.
She's on the shyer side, so be kind. So we actually Shannon is a big part of Hidden Jewels Ministry, and we've been serving in strip club ministry together since 2017. So from today, that's about 6 years now.
Yes.
And we met at a class for, I always forget what they call
Human
it.
trafficking advocate, certified advocate.
Thank you.
Training.
With the state of California.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we were at that class together, and we kept being like just drawn towards each other.
Yes.
We didn't know each other before this, and we were like sitting across from each other, and I kept looking at her. I know she kept looking at me, and so God was already drawing our hearts together, yes. And then we started serving in ministry together after that point in that class. So we knew, I think God was putting us together from day one, when we just like kept being drawn, and we didn't really know why. I mean, but we knew it was probably the Lord that was bringing us together.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So Shannon has an amazing testimony and story where she was trafficked at the age of 16 years old, working the streets and working as an escort underage at 16 for about 6 months. And then later on in her late teens, working at strip clubs. And so she's going to share a little bit of her story, and she has so much she could share. This is kind of an overview, and we want to do future follow-up videos that's going to go more in depth to talk about things. So just to jump right in, Shannon, every woman has a backstory of what led them to the industry. Obviously, nobody grows up wanting to be in the sex industry. So what were the key things in your life that led you to that point?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here.
Of course.
And yes, some of the key factors of going that way was, my upbringing. I came from a middle class, dysfunctional family. Always, felt a spirit of rejection in my life growing up, and I dealt with depression. And, I started experimenting with drugs, a little bit at the age of 14, ended up running away.
And there was drugs in your home as well.
Not drugs, well, alcohol. Yes, alcohol use. And so, I was a typical teenager, just, trying some experimenting with drugs. And when I was 14, I ran away. My mother and our relationship was not very good. I mean, she was physically abusive at times and emotionally abusive. And so that led my depression, got worse. And so she kicked me out on the streets, and I didn't have anywhere to go. Just a couple of friends here and there, but I really didn't have anywhere to go. So I was out on the street, homeless, didn't have a job, didn't have anything, just the clothes on my back, literally, the clothes on my back. And
this is the point where you meet your trafficker.
Yes.
So you're on the streets, you're young, you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Underage.
Right.
And clearly underage. Wasn't a question about it.
No.
Tell us about how you met your trafficker while you were homeless on the streets, and looking back now, what ways can you see how he was grooming you for the sex industry?
Yeah, well, some of those events that took place that happened to meet my trafficker was I was out in LA, and I didn't know anybody in LA, so I was going from place to place, and I got pretty desperate because, again, I didn't have a job, I didn't have any money, I had the clothes on my back, and I didn't want to go home, so I just was wandering the streets. Well, I got desperate, I needed to eat, And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to put in a couple of applications and see where this goes. So I'm walking. This is in Inglewood at the time, the city of Inglewood. I walk into this bar / restaurant, and I asked for an application, and I noticed that there's this gentleman, sitting at the bar having a drink and listening to my conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts asking me questions. Oh, so you're looking for a job? What kind of work are you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And
he spotted you right away.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah. And I was also, I was dealing with some medical issues. I didn't know what was going on with me at the time, but I was in a lot of pain. I ended up having 3 infections, a UTI, a bladder infection, and a kidney infection. So I was, really struggling, but I was hungry and I wouldn't dig in trash cans. So, I needed to work. So I was desperately trying to find employment. Yeah. And here's this guy, he's just talking to me and, asking me questions. And from that point on, as we're talking, all of a sudden this waitress comes out, which I never had this happen before. And she had cocaine on this silver tray, and it was being passed alongside. And I'm thinking, what kind of place is this that they do this? And but I did indulge, because again, I was experimenting at the time, some drugs. I didn't think anything of it. And we continued to talk, and he proceeded to tell me that he could help me with my the pain that I was having, because it was bothering me.
Yeah.
And he said I could get well. He would help me with the medicine that I needed, and sounded like I needed some antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he did. He took me to his condo in Woodland Hills, and and I stayed on his couch till I got better. And then he started really grooming me. And
how was he grooming you?
He was grooming me by, telling me that, I was good looking young female, that I could make, lots of money. I could have nice things.
Mm-hmm.
I could have whatever car I wanted. But that I would have to do certain things for that to happen. And he handed me this black book. It looked like an address book. And I open it, and there's these names of these people with dollar amounts, next to it. And he proceeded to tell me, what it was about. And I thought, well, I have nowhere to go. I don't have anywhere to go. So, okay, I guess this is what I'll do. I mean, I'm not.
You didn't feel like going home was an option for you?
No.
So what other option did you have?
Right. So I just thought, well, he's taking better care of me than my own parents. So, and if I can make some money, then why not? At least that's what I thought. I was 16. So,
right.
And
at that time, I remember you sharing with me that you'd only been sexually active for like 1 year.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I was out,
You still had a lot of naivety and innocence that you were bringing to this whole situation.
Right. I mean, I'm going from my parents' house, which my parents hardly let me out of the house, to this stranger's home, to where now I'm being put out on the streets, literally Sunset Boulevard. I remember that night. It was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I was just crying. I was standing there on the corner, like, what am I supposed to do? I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything but stand there and cry, but going home was not an option, because there was just no turning back at that point. I felt there was just, this trafficker made it clear that, he had control over me. He told me what to wear, what to eat. He was changing my identity.
Absolutely.
As each
new name.
Yeah, as each day went by, and I would literally was starting to lose myself.
Right.
Who was I? Because that person was ceasing to exist.
Yeah.
But this other person, this trafficked person, teenager, was, under the guise of this man, older man, who was taking care of me, but also had control of me and what he wanted me to do.
Right. And I think that's always a sign of being trafficked is it's not like, oh, I'm growing as a person. It's like, no, who I am is completely being changed.
Right. And
that's a big warning flag right there, that if you see overall you are being changed, this isn't like, oh, I'm growing as a person.
Oh, I couldn't even think for myself,
Absolutely.
It was
being controlled.
insane. Yes. I think even today I have control issues. Just if somebody tells me what to do, I have a problem with it. Because
like a trigger for you.
Because it was such a thing.
Unless it's God telling you what to do.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Because you trust him. He's safe.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to listen to him and okay, God, but this man truly was awful. He was really awful.
Yeah.
He just, yeah.
Okay. So, you worked out on the street, Hollywood Boulevard,
Mm-hmm.
and then you worked in the escort service during that about 6-month time period.
Yes.
How did working in the sex industry affect you negatively as far as just physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? What comes to mind that stands out the most? Because, I mean, we could spend an hour on that alone easily.
Right.
But, like, what are some of the key things that stand out of how it affected you the most negatively?
Negatively or emotionally, it made me feel like I felt disgusting. Emotionally, I was a mess emotionally. I couldn't believe that I was living this life. It felt like somebody else's life really being lived. I didn't know what was happening to me. So I just, emotionally, I was not in a good place. I was lost. And I was sad and I was depressed. I was really depressed. And, but I didn't want to go back home. But I was finding out I couldn't stay under this person's control either. So, I physically, I was exhausted. I was drained. I was being trained. I was being trained. These things that these clients or customers. There was another lady that came with me. She was training me to do these things, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was a kid. Again, I'm a minor. I should be
in school,
going to my prom or living a normal,
not
normal.
going to a pimp ball.
Yeah, pimp ball.
That was your prom.
Yeah, that was insane. Don't look up. Yeah, I walked with my head down, looking, at the floor. That was insane.
Yeah.
Just getting beat down verbally, and just, it was exhausting. It really was. It was exhausting. And spiritually, I was empty. I wasn't.
You weren't even really thinking about God.
I wasn't thinking about God or religion or anything like that. I was just trying to survive.
Right.
That's all I was trying to do. I was literally in survival mode.
Absolutely.
With a complete stranger. It was just bizarre. A bizarre time.
Right. And then being on drugs on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you could really process it in a normal, healthy way to even begin to work on those things.
And my drug addiction really amped up then. It really started because I couldn't believe this was happening to me. And why was this happening to me?
Right.
All because I,
got kicked out of
kicked out of my house for whatever. I wasn't an angel, but I really feel like I wasn't that bad of a kid. To be permanently kicked out of the street, don't ever come back. Feeling
that rejection.
Yeah, that rejection, that not feeling loved. Just very hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I'm trusting this stranger just to whatever. Okay. Yeah. I'll just do whatever you want, but no, not liking it for 1 minute. I hated it. I felt so trapped, and I felt so alone is really what I felt, But.
And what did he do to make you feel like you couldn't leave?
He was so controlling. He really, really, and he made things sound like, he made bad things sound very well. That's what he, like, you could do all these bad things and, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But truly,
And what about,
wasn't.
like, did you ever express like wanting to leave, or how did he make you feel trapped?
Oh no, I wouldn't ever express that to him because, he put the fear in me, not to ever. He was always watching us, the roommate and myself. He, we would go do laundry at a laundromat and he would be right across the street. So we wouldn't even think of bailing or doing anything, he just had that much control over me
and using fear
and using fear
of any kind of like disobedience or
there would be repercussions if I stepped out of line, so I had to do what he said. He was a gorilla pimp. Definitely.
Exactly, not a Romeo, Romeo boyfriend.
He wasn't the boyfriend kind.
No. So it's easier to see like what's actually happening, I think, when you have that gorilla pimp versus like the Romeo pimp who's wooing you over and you really believe this is somebody who
there
loves
was no charming.
At least you didn't have that to work through. Like you had that advantage, but at the same time, like then they're more physically aggressive and there's more fear
and more control and more
it's worse in another way.
Very abusive, just not good.
And they're threatening your family and like if you ever leave me
and he knew a lot of people, and so I was fearful of him having other people
being able to find
me. So there's this sense of paranoia that I carried with me for a long time, even after. So
and I mean, like we go into strip clubs, for years now, but I've also done street ministry where you see that difference. Like I remember when first time I did street ministry and you run into some ladies who are like, oh, they want to be prayed for. They're so thankful you're there. And you know the ones that have a gorilla pimp because when you come to them, they're like, please don't come any closer. He is watching. They're very forthcoming about it. They're like, please do not give me your gift. Because they are afraid for their life, or at least that they're going to be beat.
You're threatened.
He's like, he will question me why I'm talking to you.
You just you don't want that to happen. You don't want that, to go there. It's business. It's, he wants the money. So it's business. You don't keep that money. You're working for him.
So keeping all that in mind, what led you to finally have the courage to escape your trafficker? What happened that was like, enough's enough, I can't do this?
Well, one day with my roommate, we went on a call, escort service, and in Hollywood, and this person was coked out of his mind. And so he wanted, her and I to do strange things. And the I had it point was, he urinated on me, on my back, and I was so mad. I was just raging inside, like, how this is inhumane. Like,
treating you like trash.
Yes, like this is not. This is not happening. I was just so shocked that had even happened, and I got angry. I was really angry, and so I ended up he was a weirdo. I ended up stealing his drugs, his coke.
As revenge.
Because again, my addiction was at full swing. So, I got to get something out of this weirdo. So I ended up stealing his dope. And the next day, there was a phone call, a message left. And he had left a message saying, where's my, where's my drugs? And, if you're looking for the money, there is none, so in other words, he, what we did, he did not pay, not one penny because
it was a check.
Because it was a check that bounced,
Can't even imagine people using a check.
No.
To pay for that.
It's like, check? What's that?
A check bounced.
So the check bounced and he made it clear it bounced. And so, my trafficker was not pleased at all. He was not happy at all. And so after he heard the message, I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get it, and I did. He punched my roommate in the jaw, broke her jaw shut. And he told me to come down to where he was at. And he grabbed a black cable cord from behind the TV, and he told me to strip naked. And back in the day, your address book was in your bra, so I had my family's phone numbers and addresses on it, and he took that from me. He told me to lay down on the ground, which the carpet was very, very short, so I didn't have anything to hang on to. So he told me to lay down naked, so I'm naked, and he beats me. He just takes that and he just keeps beating my back. And I just remember at one point I was numb because he had beaten me so much that I was in so much pain that I really couldn't feel anything. I just thought, wow, he's going to kill me. This man's going to kill me, and no one's going to know. I mean, no one's looking for me. No one's going to know. And at that point, I decided, you know what, I got to get out of here. This is my life. We're talking about I'm going to die. And I looked at my roommate, and I just remember, like, right then and there, I wrote on a piece of paper and handed it to her, and it said, "I'm going to escape. Are you with me?" Mm-hmm. And get ready. And that's what we proceeded to do. And so the first chance, we got, we booked it. I ran. But to back up real quick, this roommate of mine, she was older than me. She was 23. She was from North Carolina. She was married. She had 3 kids. For whatever reason, she ended up in Woodland Hills like myself. I don't know her, but in escaping or trafficker, she was reunited with her husband and her 3 children. And they drove me back to my home, and because I had nowhere to go, and I was so completely messed up. I was such a wreck. I was such a mess.
Right, because at the beginning of being trafficked, when you didn't realize, of course, you're being trafficked, but you're like, well, the pimp is taking better care of me than this man's taking better care of me than my own family.
Right.
But by that time, it's like, no, heck no. Now home is better than this situation. Right. So now I'm willing to go back home.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back home, and I just remember not being there, like mentally, or and I was exhausted, and just all the trauma.
I can't even imagine.
Just the trauma that
And it's not like you're going back to a home that's really loving and supportive and healing.
I can't say
so you
anything.
don't even know how to heal or overcome from that.
No, and that's not.
You're still in survival mode.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling to be in. So it's just, this man was awful. Yeah.
So years later, which 2 years later approximately, now you're of legal age, right? 18, you wind up back in the sex industry again, but now working as a dancer in the strip clubs. So what factors led to that, going back to it?
So I had my first child, my daughter, at the age of 18, and I was living with her father, and he was unemployed, and he didn't act like he wanted to get a job anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So one night we were having a conversation, we were listening to music, and he decides to tell me, "Hey, you're pretty. I bet you could work at one of those strip clubs and make a ton of money." And so he thought about it, he thought it, and, he said it to me. And at first I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, I don't want to do that." He didn't know my past. He didn't know what happened to me. So it was like,
but yet another man looking at you that way.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe, I guess, so I did go the next day, and they hired me, and I started dancing. And, I would literally, at the end of my shift, I would literally go drop the money off and turn around and go back to work, and so I was neglecting my little baby, my daughter, and he was an alcoholic. So he was drinking the money that I was, making, and it was pretty bad. So here I am, back in the industry, and just, not realizing it though at the time, thinking, what chapter of life is this, how is this going to end?
Right. So if that you said was boyfriend at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Had he not recommended going back to the club, do you think you ever would have?
No.
So in a sense, it's kind of like, because I think it's an important thing that you don't realize if you're in it at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but later on you can kind of look back and be like, wow, I was in a relationship with somebody, whether even if being a
they're
husband,
supposed to care about me and love me.
And they're the ones who are suggesting I go work at the club or I go work wherever in the industry. And especially somebody who's not even going to work and they're just living off of your money by you exploiting yourself and being used in that way, like that is a form of trafficking.
Oh yes. And then when I would come home to drop off the money, then he would call me a whore, you slut, you this, you that, when it was his idea in the first place.
Right.
That is sick. That's sick. And
that's abuse.
Yeah. And that's again, and then I find myself back in that place again where I'm majorly depressed.
This is how men see
disgusting.
Me. This is all I'm
being used up. I'm being used. This is not what I want for myself, my life.
But yet it's all you've known and experienced.
Right.
In a part of the way, it's almost like it's normal because it's all you've experienced. It's all you've known.
Right.
You may want something different, but you don't always feel like you're ever really going to get that.
Right. That wasn't the reality in my case growing up, as a teenager, as a minor being 16 when that happened. And then 2 years later, I thought I was free from that. And to go back into it again from my own baby's, father, it was just like crazy. So
how would you compare your experience working deep into the sex industry, where you actually are on the streets, working escorts, compared to what some may consider more like an entryway into the sex industry, working at a strip club? Like, how was it? Did you still have the same negative effects working in the strip clubs compared to the streets and escorting?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. I mean, whether if I carry those things with me from being trafficked, it didn't matter. I mean, those things, it was there, it was a reality. It was negative. I mean, I didn't wake up and say that, I wanted to be a stripper. I just, that's not what I wanted.
What were the negative things you were experiencing in the clubs?
Oh, well, you have the negative things is you're up there, you're being you're exploiting yourself. You're, in front of strangers getting paid. And, one of the negative things is that there was pressure and stress put on me to have a certain quota of drinks and couch dances, lap dances, by the end of the shift and having to do a payout. It was not.
And when you say payout, for those that aren't familiar with how strip clubs work, what do you mean by payout? So you have a
DJ that plays your music, and it's like a tip. You give them, some money. Your bartender, because you gotta, and just
and the club itself,
and yes, and you're not, you don't. When you get hired, when I got hired, I didn't get a set amount. Okay, this is how much you're going to be making. No, you're the one, you're basically
so you're paying out to everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm up there the one doing, it was just degrading. I would call that negative. I would call that, trafficking. I mean, that's basically how I felt. I mean, that's,
because you were still being used and exploited.
Yeah, it was not a good experience. It's not, to me, it wasn't all that. It wasn't glamorous. They make it out in the movies to be, no. No, it's not.
Not when you're coming home in pain, physical pain every day, and you're still crying and a hot mess. And
I had blisters.
I remember for you, you shared in your story how you needed drugs in order to cope with that.
Yes.
So drug addiction.
Drug addiction was, I was really bad. Really, I mean, I got my drugs inside the club. Okay, I did. My dealer was the bartender.
Right. And I just want to say
easy.
for those that maybe work at a club or are watching this, like,
Sorry,
we don't think that everybody has a drug addiction.
This is my
this is just for her, and it is common. A lot of people,
right. I'm not bashing or anything like that,
but I mean, it is a common coping method for working in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there are plenty of women who work in the industry who don't have a drug addiction,
right? And
I've had ladies who dance get offended.
Yeah, I'm not saying
they're like, we don't all have drug addiction.
No, my drug addiction fully came on way before that happened. I'm just saying that.
But that definitely kept it going.
Yes, it did.
Made it worse.
Sure. Because I was trying to numb myself.
Because there was no way for you
from my personal life, you know, all the drama, trauma, whatever that was going on. Yeah. I mean, it was bad. I was not enjoying life at that time.
So what made you decide to finally stop working at the clubs? What led to that decision?
What led to that decision is interesting. This was before I ended up quitting for good. I was at the bottom. I was living in abandoned houses. It was bad. Sorry. This little girl, she was probably 9 years old. I was in the park. She was riding her bike, you know, and she was eating a candy bar, and I was so hungry. And I was just like, and our eyes met, and I said hi to her, and I just said, gosh, that candy bar looks good, you know, and gosh, I'm hungry. And she said, hold on, I'll be right back. And I didn't know where she was going. She ran across the street, and a couple minutes later, you know, her and her mom, are walking towards me, and they hand me this brown paper bag of food. And before that, I was asking God, if there is a God, if you're real, you know, you need to show me that you're real, because I'm angry. I had a lot of anger, and he did, you know, he brought this, I call her an angel. She was my angel, you know, and her mom just loved on me, and it was awesome. You know, she did invite me to church, and I just decided, you know, I think when I think back, God was totally working on my heart then. Because
you just asked him.
Yes, I just asked him. He showed
up.
Yes, he did. And not only that, but he also led me in the direction of wanting to get cleaned up. So that's what I was concentrating on. So from that incident with the little girl and the mom giving me food and inviting me to church and all that, I went from there to a sober living home. And, you know, I had to pay rent. So for the room I was in. And so I didn't have any jobs, you know, no skills. So I did what I, you know, used to do. So I went back, and, but something was different this time. When I did go back, it was different. I saw it totally different for the first time. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get up there. I couldn't do it. And something inside me told me, you know what, this is not for you. There's something better. Run, you know, just leave. And I'm sitting there, and this is going on while I'm sitting there with a customer, and he's, you know, handing me a rock of cocaine. That's all I need, you know. I'm trying to get clean and all this stuff. So I got up and I said, what am I doing here? And I just remember I just ran out the door. I just left. Literally, I don't even remember if I changed my clothes or not. I don't know. But I literally ran out of that building, and I was terrified. I was shaking. I was upset. I was crying. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. No more. And for me to say that, I knew it wasn't, you know, it was something was different. You know, I had another experience, you know, with God, and he was starting to show.
Right. It's like you didn't really understand at the moment, I didn't understand. But looking back, you can see that was God speaking to you and guiding you
out of it
to get out.
Yeah. And that was a very important day for me
Yeah.
to change my life. Started changing my life.
That was your pivot point.
Yes,
that
was.
meeting with that little girl at a park.
Yeah.
You were so desperate.
Yeah, it was.
You're asking a little girl for
I know.
food.
I was like,
Not even
what?
an adult.
This is crazy. This shouldn't be, really. This shouldn't be, how horrible that, I must have looked really pathetic, to this little angel, this little girl asking her. But she was obedient, she was, I'm going to see her one day, and I'm going to give her a big hug.
Right.
And
that mom.
Yeah, and the mom, they were, they were instrumental in my turning point in my life.
Okay.
But that's
yeah. So that was like a pivot turning point, but you really at that point still didn't understand like what it meant to have a relationship with God or anything.
I didn't.
So at what point in your journey did you give your life to Jesus and start following him?
So after that, it was about 2 years, I would say about 2 years later, when I was living with my boyfriend, who is now been my husband, going on 29 years of marriage. This weekend's our anniversary.
We share the same anniversary too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's neat. How many years for you?
7 for me.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, 29 years. Woo. But I love him to death. But he truly was an instrumental part. His mom, shared the love of Jesus and stuff. And I just remember she said to me, God loves you. He loves you. No matter what you've done, what you're doing, he meets us right where you're at. He meets us. He meets us. It doesn't matter what we're doing. He totally you don't have to get clean.
Yes.
You don't have to, okay, I'll do this.
We can't get clean.
No, I'll do this, I'll do that. You don't catch a fish and it's already clean, and it takes time. So, this is what was happening. I mean, it took 2 years, but I was ready. I was ready. I wanted my life to change, and it did. So I accepted the Lord. I went to church after an incident that happened in my relationship with my husband. At the time, he was my boyfriend, and it changed, the course of, like where I am today. Is there was an incident that happened that I believe God used, and actually, he not only saved me, but he saved my whole family. His parents at the Harvest Crusade in '96, I believe. 96, and from that point on, I want to say I have been walking with the Lord, and my life is, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still, have my struggles just like anybody else, but for the most part, he changed my life. He took me out of, I want to say, my misery. He took me out of that. And, and that's what he does. He can take those things that were meant for evil, and he can turn them for good.
Absolutely.
That's a promise. And
you're thinking about that worship song that says, God, turn it around. Love
and
that
does.
song.
And he does.
Yes.
He truly does. And
it's not instant, like you said, it's a journey.
It is.
And that's something we'll talk about in a follow-up video, is that healing journey and what that looks like specifically, often coming out of the industry.
Yeah.
It's
a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for being vulnerable to share your story. And
thank you for having me.
It took, even after Shannon gave her life to the Lord, it took a couple decades for her to share like this part of her story. So, and we'll kind of talk about that more in a next follow-up video. So, for those of you that are watching, we do plan on doing more follow-up videos because there's so much. Like, this was just a quick overview of what she experienced in the industry and how she came to Christ. But if you have specific questions for Shannon, please put it in the comments below, or even questions about the industry, or what you want to know maybe about her healing journey. Put that in the comments below. We'd love to hear your questions so we can kind of take in consideration for what we discuss in the next coming up videos. So,
yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And
any closing words you'd like to give of encouragement?
I just want to say, for who's listening, that God does love you. He does. He loves you so much. And he is love. I mean,
yes, God is love.
He's the true meaning of love. And I believe that when we're doing these things, that we're, some of us are seeking for that love. And I know that's what I was looking for love, in all the wrong places,
like they say.
And, he just showed me a better way. There is a better way of living, and he is our provider. He truly takes care of his kids. And I just want to encourage you, if you're at a place where you just feel like, I really don't know about this. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I'm thinking maybe, I want to do something else. You can. He'll give you the strength. He'll give you everything you need to do that, which, what you want to do or where you want to go. He has so much more for you. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
And he has a plan and a purpose and a future and a hope for you. And
Jeremiah 29.
11. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, I love you ladies. And, he's good. He is. He's faithful. He's true. And he's so good. And so.
Well, with that, as Shannon said, we truly love each of you.
Praying for you.
Praying for you. And if you need prayer or any kind of support, please reach out to us. You could do it on social media. Message us. There's all kinds of ways to message us. Go to our website. We would love to hear from you. And again, we are here for you. This is why we are here. This is why we do this, because we love you and we believe God loves you and has an amazing purpose for your life that you can't even see yet. So God bless you and take care.
Bye.
We hope you were blessed by this video. We would love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future content. We also love for you to like and follow us on our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like to support our ministry financially, you can go to our website to do so. And we just thank you so much for joining us. If you are a lady who is in the industry and you are looking for support, whatever that might look like, please contact us and reach out to us. This is why we're here, is just for you. Take care and God bless.